Hi, I'm Mike, and you're watching Spiritual Combat. And the title of today's show is The Battle for Your Mind. And when I say mind, um, I'm talking about your spirit, soul, heart, psyche, uh, whatever name they address to it, but where you see, um, you know, the reason anyway, the reason I'm addressing it, and I'm trying to keep it simple, straight, and sweet, so it's not complicated, because I've seen a trend of people just you know losing their mind, people just going crazy. And you know I understand, because in this society, the way the world is today, if you're taking in the culture, if you're drinking down the media and what they put on TV, and you're following, going along with the current and the tide of society and all that stuff like that, um, if you're doing all that stuff, you can't help but to lose your mind. You're gonna lose it. I mean, you can't keep going on and doing, following the ways of this world, doing, you know, what is, typically accepted, or whatever, what everybody's doing, what seems normal, and not lose your mind, and well, like what I've seen, I'm 40 years old now. What I've seen is you either gotta be on drugs, or you gotta be heavily clinging to this Bible right here, and heavily into that, in order to stay sane in this society. Otherwise, you're gonna lose your mind, and it's that deceptively crazy out there now. And of course, Kanye West is learning that the hard way. He was hospitalized. At first I was just kind of, briefly, just kind of, I was coming across headlines saying he was on tour and everything like that, and he was ranting on the tours about politics and complaining about Jay-Z and Beyonce and all this stuff like that. And, I wasn't paying much attention to it. Then the next thing you know, I heard he had been hospitalized. Then the next thing I heard, they said, oh, yeah, it's way worse. Then he canceled like 27 something concerts. Who knows how much money that is. And then, it's pretty serious. And from the details, I've read a couple of situations. From the details I've read, it basically sounded like a nervous breakdown, and like he had some other issues too, because he has kind of a obsessive compulsive personality, maybe real emotional. Anyway, I have a bunch of videos where I could show you, where you can almost see where he's going crazy. I don't know if he's schizophrenic. I don't know what you would call it. But one thing about him, he goes hard. He's a hard grinder, but Satan has him deceived and is wasting his grind. He'd be a perfect Hebrew, if he got in the word, but he went the other route. And my thing is, if you go hard in any other direction but God, is going to lead you. I mean, you're number one, you're serving Satan. Like, if you're not going hard and giving your heart, mind, and soul to God first, if that's not your first priority, you're going to go off. And there's nothing wrong with grinding hard. You know what I'm saying? I go hard on stuff that I do, but the thing I go the hardest on is the word of God. You know what I'm saying? And why do you have to? Why does that have to be your number one grind? Why do you have to go hard? Why does God tell us love, to love him with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with everything you have? Is one of the main things in the Bible is he's trying to help you keep your mind right. Like I heard it said one time, you can lose your mind, but where does it go? Like when you lose your mind and you go crazy and you go off, where does it go? And then how do you get it back? You know what I'm saying? You don't want to, like that thing said, a mind is a terrible thing to waste, man. You don't want to play around with your mind, your psyche, your spirit, or whatever. There's a demonic world and it's after it, And the law, statutes, commandments in that Bible, one of the main purposes is to help you keep your mind, because it's a spirit world and there's so many things out here trying to get you, trying to make you lose your mind. I watch people lose their mind with relationships, lose their mind with drugs, lose their mind with stress, lose their mind just chasing after pointless stuff like him, chasing after success or whatever, When if you focus on the Lord, you'll keep your mind, you'll be in peace, You might not have all the money, you might not have the girl you were chasing after that you put everything into, you know what I'm saying? You might not have those super peaks of feel good that you get when you on drugs and stuff like that, but your mind will be right, And the deception is so subtle, and Satan is a deceiver, and some of the stuff I'll bring up, because I'm doing this video, I'm doing some other ones about on this topic where it relates to relationships, but the way he deceives people is just so subtle, you never realize it. Okay. So let's get into some of these videos. And this first video is a documentary that somebody put together. But anyway, this is an early interview of Kanye in his early years. And what I want you to see here is he seems normal. Okay. That's the big thing. But so I'll play a little bit of it, and you can see for yourself. All right.
To get my music out, which is what I wanted since third grade, you know what I'm saying? Doing beats is such a blessing for me as an artist, because I charge a fee, whereas I can just do beats every so often and live comfortably, right. And still the rest of the time, all the rest of my time, think of new raps. I just walk through the house and just think of, man, I'm about to do a chorus like this. My chorus gonna say, well, when you say I'm 1000000 old up, I got that from J Mo Money, Money Anything. And he's talking about he a millionaire.
Okay, so this is one of his early interviews. He seems normal in it. Okay. And I'll tell you this, I'll pull up here the interview where, and this was back in 2013, okay? This was the interview where I was like, yo, this dude done lost his mind. Like his mind's blown, and I was saying it back then. And in reports, you began to hear reports, earlier this year that his mind wasn't right. And I was like, well, I called that back in 2013 when I saw this interview. Okay, so I'm going to play some from this.
And I designed the set with Ed Devlin, and I thought of, okay, surround vision. It should be a screen above you, below you, to the left or right of you, and in front of you also. Then I paid my own money that I get paid for doing Gold Digger, which I never really liked that song, but I always knew I would get paid for doing Gold Digger. Then I shoot a film in Qatar with 3 camera crews, with Nate Brown, Virgil, Matt William, Nabil, all of these crew, all of the people that every video that pops up every other day on Hypebeast, that's my crew, right? So we go out and shoot that. 3 camera crews over 5 days, edit it over 30 days, show it at Amphar. No, show it in Cannes the night before Amphar on the beach, build it in a pyramid with.
Okay, and this was a whole long interview. Let me see if I can fast forward to something else in it. Okay, let's check this part out.
About yourself since you became a family man?
You know, I can't pinpoint that. I don't have the answer right on me. I got to think about it a little bit and give you a really good answer.
Okay, cool.
I've got like a lock and loaded amount of information that I'd like to express on a very wide scale that I'll give you. But if you ask me a question like that, I'll go back and think of it, and maybe I'll have the answer for you in a couple of days. You know?
Okay, no problem, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, I watched a lot of that interview, and you know, I could follow him and understand what he was saying, but he was off. And what I could tell, one of the things I could pull from is that it's like he's opened his mind up. He just kind of let his mind go into this artist rap, and then he's trying to go into fashion thing. He let his mind go. You're supposed to guard your mind, okay? It says, we got a Bible verse to kind of back up what I'm saying. All right, let me get it up here. It's Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. And here, I'll pull it up here. It says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. And, you know, when you research that scripture, basically what it means is, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And like I was saying earlier, just basically that's your mind. Like guard yourself. You got one way you know something is wicked is when it's telling you, oh, just release yourself and relax. No, guard your mind. Like that will, that thing, they call it losing your inhibitions. Like that's why God tells you don't get drunk, don't do these drugs. A lot of these drugs lower that thing that guards your mind. You watch a lot of these people who do these synthetic drugs, like I did that one documentary on. It just drops your mind, and it's like a demon goes right in your mind and takes control of it. You know, you gotta guard your mind. You can't let go. And you can, if you watch some of his later, more recent interviews, you can tell he's just he's wide open and all expansive on all this. You know, you could see. Matter of fact, let me pull up the most recent interview he did, which was about a week ago. It was like November 20th, and you can see like a noticeable difference the way, you know, I know I could just tell like he's off. Now I can understand what he's saying, but there's something where he's kind of off. There's like craziness. And he said it, I think he said in one of his songs or something, all the most creative geniuses were crazy, you know, and you're chasing Satan. You know what I'm saying? Because like if you're not like going hard after the Lord, and instead you're like pressing hard after some worldly thing, like they praise Steve Jobs. Man, Steve Jobs was off. Like he was way off. He was wicked. He's bringing forth stuff for Satan. Like a lot of this stuff with technology is Satan's behind all that stuff. He's pushing that. God enables us to use it for the good, but you know, a lot of these people they praise as geniuses were off, and they were doing Satan's work. I mean, Steve Jobs was out there in India. He said he was praising how good LSD was, because he went on an LSD trip, and he said that's what opened his mind up and helped him come up with Apple. And yeah, I won't go into all that. But anyway, watch this most recent interview, and you could kind of see that he's kind of off, okay? So here we go.
With you. It's just like, I think business has to be stupider. I tell people that like all the time, like I just want to do like really extremely straightforward, stupid business. Just talk to me like I'm a 4-year-old. And I refuse to negotiate. I do not negotiate. I can collaborate, but you know, I'm an artist, so as soon as you negotiate, you're being compromised, and it's extremely difficult to get your point across through compromise. Right. So I'm just patient now. I'll wait till I'm in a situation where there's no negotiation.
Okay. Now, also, watch this. This is right here. The he calls himself an artist or something, but I want to show you this because this is what I'm talking about. He's kind of off, and he has a lot of pride, and he's emotional. That's not a good combination, okay? Especially for a man. All right, so here we go. So check this out right here.
Yeah, just some information that can help people along their path. Oh. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned, you know, that you view yourself as an artist, and I'm curious how far you see.
I didn't mention that I view myself that way. I am,
yeah.
and never worded like that. It's extremely offensive.
How do you?
No, why did you say I view myself like that? Do you not view me like that?
I totally view you as an artist.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, I was asking more like how far you see it, how far you see it extended. Like, what to you, you know, is art, and where do you see it extended?
I don't understand the question.
How far does it go? Like, is it?
What's the it?
Art. Like
art itself?
What do you view as? Yeah. What is your sort of definition, personal definition of art?
Yeah, so anyway, he takes a while to answer that question, but go watch the whole interview and then watch that first one I showed you. I could clearly see that, you know, he's off. He was off. Okay. And this is the thing, man. He grinds hard. He works hard. He just these people that are at these levels go hard. I mean, they grind. And but the wrong grind will grind you up. You will get ground up, because if you ain't grinding for God, you're going to be off. I mean, Steve Jobs was grinding so hard that his health failed. You know, he neglected his family. Everybody who worked for him, majority of people didn't like him. They said he was just mean as heck. You know, he didn't live a fulfilling life. And he was deceived all the way till he died. And, you know, they said, you know, I was reading this thing about his last words, and it was like he saw something that he didn't expect right before he died. He's like, whoa. Like, they said that was his last words or something like that. But anyway, yeah, he just, you know, when you don't know your purpose, you go grinding for, you know, when you don't realize, hey, you need to be following God, keeping his laws, statutes, commandments, all that stuff like that, you end up working for Satan, you know, straight up. And then when you try to kick against it, like I think Kanye did, you end up losing your mind, you know, when you realize, hey, you notice a lot of people who died, like Michael Jackson and Prince, they began to realize that there was something big pulling the strings. You know, maybe they began to realize it was this is the thing, they didn't realize it was the spirit world manipulating everything. They didn't realize that. They knew something big was controlling the direction of things, and they began to kick against it, but they didn't realize what they were kicking against. They were kicking against Satan and the spirit world. It says right here, let's see. It says, this is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. And it says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Okay? That's what Michael Jackson, that's what Prince, that's what they thought they were wrestling against, was flesh and blood. Okay? And they were trying to kick against it. Oh, it's those record producers. They don't really care about us and all that stuff. And it says, but for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Okay? So as soon as you get off, as soon as you're not following God's ways, that's what you're working for. And they wouldn't call him a deceiver if he wasn't good at deceiving people. And when you watch that Kanye West interview, and you can see in that interview that Satan got him on a merry-go-round, just going around in circles, because like his answers, on one level, yeah, I kind of understand what you're trying to express, but you off. It's like what you're talking about is pointless. It's not doing nothing for anybody, and if it, is pulling people down. He doesn't realize he's doing Satan's work. Okay. Okay. So let's see. And then the other thing is he's effeminate. He's emotional, and you have, and a lot of, I'll do a video on this, but dudes who are raised by their mothers and no strong masculine figure was in the house, they become emotional dudes. They're real emotional, and they get emotional. They're all over the place. I work with a dude now, and there's another dude I work with. They were straight up raised by their father. That's it. Their mothers died early or got on drugs and had nothing to do in their life. So they were raised just by a male. And these dudes are just the easiest dudes to deal with. No emotional games. They don't come in all happy one day and then all down and angry then, and their emotions all over the place like a woman or something. They just even keel the same way every day. I could laugh, joke, tease them, and they just laugh it off. They don't take it personally. They really could care less what you think, and they're just easy to deal with and talk to. Same note, in my last job in the military before I retired, there was a guy in the shop. He was raised by his mother, and this dude started more trouble in that shop and was just hard to deal with. I remember one day he was just telling me he'd like to learn what people's buttons were so he could push them and watch them get angry. I mean, the dude was just off. He's like a woman man or something. He was, and he just emotional and off. And I see that in Kanye West. He's emotional and off. And like a good example, again, I'm going to play it again. Like, this is a good example where it shows itself is right here. Okay.
View yourself as an artist, and I'm curious how far you see.
I didn't mention that I view myself that way.
You are an artist.
I am,
yeah.
and never worded like that. It's extremely offensive.
How do you?
No, why did you say I view myself like that? Do you not?
I mean, that kind of showed how kind of prissy and I care what you think. It's like, okay, as opposed to watching somebody who's just real more masculine and, not emotional and caring what people think, So, and if you watch, like I said, if you watch a bunch of the interviews, you see, he's feeling his way through stuff and all that. And, I'm going to have to do a video about the feminine men and emotional men and all that stuff like that to really get into this thing and break it down. But, yeah, that's one of the things you could see, and one of the things I've seen, dealing with men out here. That's a pattern I've seen, you know, a lot of in our inner cities and stuff like that. A lot of men are raised by their mothers, and you know, I'm old enough and I've been around enough. I've seen the difference of men who were raised by men and men who were raised by their mother and men who were raised in a family, you know, in a proper family. You know, there's a big difference, you know, and you need both. You need the mother there and you need the father there. And you need the father there in a masculine capacity, leading, being the example of masculinity. And you need the woman there to be the example of, you know, how a woman needs to be, you know. So, you know, you need that balance. Okay. Let me see. Okay. And then this is why I think he's in the condition he's in now. I remember he said this, and after he said this, I was like, okay, you know, here, I'll play it.
State of racism, where just like that, when someone comes up and says something like, I am a God, everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was, a God. I just told you. That's who I think I am. Would it have been better if I had a song that said,
you see? So, you know, you don't even joke around that. He said that in a prideful way. He's going around calling himself Yeezus. And one of his concerts, he was like, I think he said, yeah, if it was back in the biblical times, he'd be one of the prophets or something like that. You know, he had a lot of pride. So, you know, and let's see, you have this scripture here. This is Proverbs 16, verse 18. It says, pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And again, if you watch those interviews, and some of, you know, his antics lately and some of the stuff he said, he's very prideful. He wasn't humble, you know? And there you go, you know? So again, you got to walk in, you know, these laws, statutes, commandments that are in the Bible. You know, God laid this stuff out so people could keep their minds right. Let me see if I have any other verses here. But yeah, so yeah, it's you know, it's very tempting to grind and go hard for something and put your heart, mind, and soul into it and go after it. But it's a sin to do that. The only thing you're supposed to put your heart, mind, soul, and all your effort into is, you know, is seeking the Lord, you know, and that word and studying and following God and walking, you know, the way he laid out for us, you know, to walk. So, but anyway, I hope this video was informative. Put some comments down there, share the video if you liked it. And this is Spiritual Combat, and have a nice day.